I apologize, it's 9:02, but prior to starting the meeting, anyone who would care to stand, just say a silent prayer for unity, peace, and stability in the community. I'd appreciate it. We will start in a minute. It's 9:03, thank you. We are now in session. First item of business, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next is the adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions?
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is the agenda for public presentation period. This is dealing with items on the agenda. Ms. House, has anyone signed up?
Yes, there are 11 people.
11 people, we have 20 minutes. So let's round it out at 2 minutes each. Okay, please call the first person.
Miss Nancy Nguyen.
Oh, I get to speak now? Oh, I'm actually here because of the hiring of legal counsel for...
Name and address, please.
Oh, my name is Nancy Nguyen. I live at 146 Lookout Point Way, Linden, Virginia, 22642. I'm here opposing hiring a legal counsel for the Board of Supervisors, county administrators, and former county attorney. I think that it would be prudent to be careful going forward in this matter just due to the nature of this whole business. But I'm not against a resolution, once exonerated, to seek reimbursement. But I think us taxpayers putting forth money to pay for a legal defense of a crime of malfeasance is just not wise. So I'm opposing that, and I really want each and every one of you to know that I'm speaking for myself, but I don't think I'm alone in this. So thank you.
Next.
Gary Kushner.
I'm Gary Kushner, 1106 Fetcher Road in Browntown. My testimony would be a whole lot longer than 2 minutes, but I'll save most of it for a later session. So I'll just say that I don't believe that the contracts that the former county attorney and the county administrator call for a public benefit regarding criminal charges. And I think that should be looked into. What the actual language says, it should be for civil liability, not for criminal. But I'll say that when you sought and gained public office, I believe you took an oath to faithfully execute the duties of the office. The grand jury of your peers has reviewed evidence that suggests that either consciously or not, that oath may not have been met, and it has resulted in grave consequences to the community. As a matter of personal integrity, I do not think it would be right for you now to ask the citizens to fund your legal expenses, whether entitled or not. Even if you are found not guilty of the allegations, you alone have put yourself in this position of scrutiny, and the stain on our community will never be erased from our history. Regardless of the errors that may have been made in the past, you have a chance now to do the right thing, and I sincerely hope you will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fern Vasquez.
Good morning. Fern Vasquez, 120 Gloucester Road, here in Front Royal. I'm here this morning as a citizen of Warren County and as a taxpayer. When we chose you, we walked in that voting booth and we chose you to represent us for Warren County. We have the expectation that you would exercise a fiduciary responsibility to us as citizens and to guard our taxpayer dollars by demanding accountability for those who were dispersing funds. And that you at the very least would pay attention to those of us who voiced our concerns about the EDA. I'm referring to Mark Hager in specifically. Soon you will be taking a vote on whether those same taxpayers will fund your defense as you stand accused of misfeasance and nonfeasance. I'm here to say today that Warren County citizens did not want to fund the disappearance of millions of dollars, and we do not want to fund your legal fees in fighting this charge. I won't pretend to have the expertise in interpreting the Virginia State Code, but I'm capable of understanding the words may in its discretion on legal fees. You have a choice today of taking a stand to begin the healing process and to pick up the pieces of the rubble of what has become one of the largest fund embezzlements in the state of Virginia, or you can vote to ask us, the citizens, to dig in our pockets and pick up the tab. I am watching, the citizens of Warren County are watching, and the cameras are rolling. Thank you.
Chris Schwartz.
I'm Fritz Schwartz, Blue Mountain Road. After reading the liability insurance that was provided, it's the same liability insurance, the liability insurance, by the way, was run through Mr. Carter, the agency. The same liability insurance that I had as a federal employee, basically it was said that you would be held, that they would pay for your duties. If you were involved in a legal and an operation that was involved, that was sanctioned. In this case, what you're paying for is an illegal action. And with that, the ghosts of Warren County come back. They're everywhere. Anyway, after that reading, there has to be a legal act. In this case, it's a criminal act. I think that you guys should take it, as Mr. Murray always says, is that we should bring the country back together, and this would be a real opportunity to start that healing process. I thank you for that.
Thank you.
James Harper.
I think I signed the wrong thing. Mine is F.
I will bring him down.
Thank you.
Joe Andrews.
Morning. Joe Andrews, 735 McGeth Farm Lane. I'm just going to reiterate what all these other folks have been saying. I don't think that any of us are without fault here. We blindly trusted you folks, and you blindly trusted others, and here we are. So if I make a mistake in this world, I've got to hire my own legal counsel. I look for you to do the same thing. We're out enough taxpayer dollars here already, and we're probably never going to see it. We're never going to get that money back. Do the right thing. Vote to get your own lawyers. Tom, you can defend yourself.
I'm not one of the,
Melanie Salins.
Melanie Salins, 95 Murray Drive. This is a 9 a.m. meeting, and look at the turnout. Most of your taxpayers are at work right now. And I know I myself, as many of you citizens did, probably dropped your entire schedule for the day to come out and let you know that we do not want to pay for your legal defense. I had some additional questions from the agenda. Where does this end? What would happen if you end up facing additional criminal charges? What happens if you end up facing federal charges or criminal charges from the IRS? Who gets to pick your lawyers? Is there a maximum cap placed on the fees that you're allowed to spend of our tax-paying money? Why not just use a court-appointed attorney or the county attorney? You have a choice today as to if you will take the citizens' money against our will. I'm asking you to do what's morally right and start representing the will of the people. Thank you.
William Pearsall.
Good morning, everyone. William Pearsall, 1300 Reliance Road, Middletown. It's been over a decade since I last spoke before this board, and I'd like to bring forward a few of the points I was making 10 years ago that seem to indicate the pervasiveness of the go-along to get along crowd. Several years ago, I met with a town official regarding the integrity of a longtime county supervisor. He explained how the good old boys attempted to compromise him by offering him the opportunity to join them in a not fully legal yet rich scheme. He declined, believing it was a setup. I believe Danny McGethern did not resist a similar offer. I warned this board about good old boy Ron Llewellyn. You did not listen. You appointed him to the EDA board, and now Llewellyn is up to his neck in the EDA mess. The good old boys have a motto: go along to get along. It pervades the political mindset and fosters corrupt and immoral activities without fear of punishment. Here are a few examples. Used to be the county attorney was Ron Napier, and the town attorney was Blair Mitchell. How did they happen to switch jobs? I think you know. I will speak about this at a future BOS meeting and town council meeting. Reminds me of former town councilman Hollis Tharp, caught soliciting sex at a massage parlor. Twatted by Matt Tedrick, claiming I was a danger to the safety of various politicians. Former Sheriff Dan McGethern, upon receiving a written complaint signed, I believe, by Prudence Matthews, former DSS chairperson, sent 2 of his senior officers to confront and attempt to intimidate me with a friendly interview in the driveway of my home. One of those officers is now the Front Royal Chief of Police. This is the same Matt Tedrick who years earlier at the DSS board, as the DSS board chair, hired Ron King as the DSS director, despite King's history of being dismissed from his 2 previous DSS director positions for wrongful termination of employees. True to form, King was also successfully sued for wrongful termination of at least one Warren DSS employee. When confronted with his lapse of judgment, Tedrick said even if he knew about King's wrongful terminations, he would have still hired King. May all of you receive the justice you deserve. Thank you.
Well said.
Christy Atwood, 1255 Pilgrim's Way, Bentonville, Virginia. I've spoken in front of you many times, so right now you're getting what you deserve. You reap what you sow. There was pure negligence, pure misfeasance, malfeasance, and I even made a formal complaint of all 3 of those over a year ago regarding David being the building official who is still not doing his job. More things will come out about this week. But it's almost like you guys all went on vacation and you left your teenage son in charge, and of course he's going to throw a party. He's going to spend whatever money he can find in the house, and if your credit cards are left there, he's going to use those too. But then when you came back and you wanted to punish him, instead of punishing him, you let him be the parent and you be the children. He's told you what to do for years. When in the world are you going to tell him what to do? He needs to be gone. He is an appointed employee. Right now, the citizens have no one that we can trust to go to. You need to take him out of his office, put him on whatever leave he needs to be on, and put Bob Childress in his place. Because Bob Childress is capable of handling the county. As far as the rest of you, I've asked you to resign in the past. You scoffed at me, you laughed at me. I don't really care. I still think y'all need to resign. I think it's a pitiful, pitiful shame what you've done. You should have never been carrying the county's insurances. And you can't hide behind your mother's, skirts saying, oh, it's her company. You're the agent. I saw it on an email to my fire department. Linda, I love you as a person, but you should have spoken up. You really should have spoken up as a politician. Mr. Murray, you're very out of touch with your constituents. You think you have this big following, but you don't. And then you got mad when the Republican Party tried to put someone else in your place. Tom, when you compared yourself to Jesus and the disciples, I about lost it. You're as far away from Jesus as my grandmother has long said, and she had a 5th grade education, my grandmother has long said that a lawyer has about as much chance to get into heaven as a camel does getting through the eye of a needle. And Mr. Fox, you're a nice man, but you have not spoke up. You've shook your head, you've agreed with Tom, you've agreed with Linda at times, but we need strong leaders who are not going to be afraid. When the Virginia State Police wanted to come in here, y'all circled the wagons. You didn't open the doors. There's nothing that if you wanted to go to the state police, as you said, you should have marched your butt right into their office with cameras rolling and a group of citizens and been like, please come and help us. And it's still not too late. It's just y'all are trying to cover your own butts for what you've already done, and you don't want them in here. Thank you. Oh, and a gentleman passed me a note that we want you guys to recuse yourselves from financial commitments and personal decisions until after the elections. Thank you.
Leslie Matthews, 143 Matthews Lane. I don't have any speech prepared this morning, but I do want to discuss the item on the agenda, letter M. This is very, and I'm just going to be blunt today, this is very disgusting. And for any of you, whoever suggested this, I just want to say, it's like a piece of crap. We, the citizens of this county, do not owe you a thing. You owe us more than you can even see past your own nose. You guys have such, at times, such arrogance, especially Mr. Stanley. You have such arrogance towards the people of this county. Instead of being servants, public servants as you're called to be, and you were voted in to be, you're self-servants. And I just want to say today that whoever did that, and whoever will vote towards this, it's no good, and it's very disgusting. So I want to challenge you, suggest to you, each of you today, and I may not be here when the vote goes out, because I too, like 90% of the people, have a job to do and have to be there. And I can guarantee you that when I set up in that South River seat come January 1st, 2020, because I have all intentions of being there, as I've told you before, I will make certain that these meetings are held during the time that the people I represent can be a part of it. So with that being said, I just want to suggest to all of you, dig into your own pockets, stand up, do what's right, and if you need a loan, like a lot of people who find themselves in a situation of needing an attorney, maybe you should go to Mr. Stanley. You've given him several increases. I'm sure he's got plenty. Thank you.
Mark and Nancy Swieber. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name. Swieber?
That was an error.
That was an error? Oh. Paul Gabbard?
Paul Gabbard, 1221 Valley View Drive. Good morning. I've gotten to know a couple of you fairly well, and this bothers people on a couple of different sides. But the 5 of you are responsible for everything that goes on in the county. It doesn't matter what it is. You are the leaders. You are in control of Mr. Stanley, but we have to reverse that. Mr. Stanley is in control of you. As far as your counsel, the Virginia Code states, now I don't have the number, that you have to pay for your attorney up front. If you're found innocent, you can be reimbursed, but you have to pay up front. And if you think that we should pay up front,
you're sadly mistaken. And the arrogance, somebody just said the arrogance of Mr. Stanley, our county administrator. The comment he made in the paper is he's set for whichever way, innocent or guilty, people are going to pay for his attorney. That is arrogance beyond arrogance. I only have one other thing on the agenda that, nobody else is speaking about anything but attorneys. There's a request for a purchase of a county public works vehicle, or a vehicle for the public works department. If you're going to vote on this, at least do something other than what was done for Mr. Stanley. Get a vehicle that is not fully loaded. Get a vehicle that gets good gas mileage. Get a vehicle, unlike a great big SUV, to where us taxpayers have to spend all kinds of money on insurance and gas. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that's everybody who signed up.
Is there anyone else who would care to speak at this time?
I have one more comment. And I have a comment later after this. James Harper, 3658 Rockland Road. It came to my attention that I got a list of Mr. Stanley's credit card, county credit card usage. And it's a shame on all of you all for the last probably 10 years. He's been using the county credit card for his personal use. And that's wrong. You've sat there and you've signed off on it to reimbursing. It's wrong. You should know better. And I'll have more comments later.
Is there anyone else who would care to speak at this time?
Karen Roberts, 703 Braxton Road. Most children are taught responsibility for their actions. I don't know if any of y'all were, but it's not up to us to pay for your actions. You didn't do your job. You hid behind somebody. You hid underneath somebody. It's time for y'all to stand up. Take care and take responsibility for yourselves. Don't expect us to pay for you.
Anyone else care to speak? If not, come on. Yes.
Good morning, I'm Linda McDonough at 1205 High Top Road, and I haven't been around for a while, but I've been coming here for years. It basically started with Shenandoah Farms and the non-accountable for the money that was collected by the board of Shenandoah Farms. Then finally it took years and years because she didn't want to believe us, and we brought in all the information, and it just took years and years and years for finally the county to realize that there was a big problem with the money from Shenandoah Farms. Now the county's taken over, and basically the county has everything except for our clubhouse that they take care of and everything, our roads and all that stuff. And since Doug Stanley got us in all the home, the road revenue share projects that is really eating our money up to where the people that don't qualify for those programs because of the roads that we live on just are falling apart. The grading, our road is like 6-7 inches lower than it used to be 7-8 years ago. We hardly have any gravel on it. It's just basically dirt. The roads are eroding away, and we've done, before we became part of the county, and Public Works all became about because of Shenandoah Farms to get all of the other subdivisions and everything all in line so that then the county can continue to get their 2 or 3% from our tax money that's from Shenandoah Farms. And I just don't see any change in the board or anything. They're all ruled by this man, Bob Childress, and everything. It's like you don't even do your research to find out really what's going on. You just listen to this gentleman here, and I thought it was your position being voted in to educate yourselves about what is before you instead of just listening to one person. And I just find that very distressing that, and I have been very distressed. That's how come it is that a lot of people don't keep coming back, because we just keep talking like to a dead wall. It's just ridiculous. Thank you.
Come forward.
Good morning. My name is Mark Sweeberg. I'm from 519 Delicious Road in Linden, Virginia. I've been listening to what has been said with great interest. I've been here. I've come to love my community. And I'm rather disgusted with what has transpired over the last several months around here. And I point the finger directly at all of you. I've noticed a number of people have pointed the finger at Mr. Stanley. He's been here for 22 years. Why has he been reelected time and time again? So my comments are really not for you all. My comments are for everybody in here. We all know who
around and face the panel, not the audience.
Okay, I'll keep it this way and point out to my people. If everybody in the audience doesn't make note of your names, spread your names around the community, those people who tend to be indifferent, and make sure you don't sit at these seats in the near future, then it's our fault for continuing to allow you to ruin the system, abuse your trust, and not serve the community with the integrity and honor that we expect of you when we elect you into these offices. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Bonnie Gabbard, 1221 Valley View Drive. Like everyone else here, I'm appalled that you all are asking the citizens to pay for your legal fees. We should have been more diligent when we elected you to office. However, I think that this election coming up is going to show the couple that are, Tom Sear, you're running. I think that this election is going to show you all that the people are listening now. And I just want you all to know, and I want everybody to know in the audience, and it will be up to date, we are filing a recall notice, because this is the only recourse that we have as citizens, is to get the ones of you out of office that are not up for re-election this year, because you will not man up and you will not resign on your own. Isn't it clear to you all that we do not want you in office any longer? Because you're not representing the people. You're doing what you want, when you want it, and you're leaving the people to pay the price for what you're doing.
Please.
Chris Nelson, 4225 Blue Mountain Road. I would like to be able to turn around and address the citizens, but apparently I'm not allowed to. So I just want to thank everyone for coming. It's not easy. We've got kids, we have schedules, we have work. The engagement from the citizens is what's going to make the change. So I just wanted to say thank you for everybody. And please remember, they're not leaders. They're our representatives. Look at this panel of people and ask yourself, is this how we want Warren County represented? It's not. Thank you.
Anyone else? Please.
Hello, Edwin Hensley, 810 Virginia Avenue. I just wanted to come today because I woke up and I felt like I had to speak. I'm a young voter. I think you have to realize that the next generation is listening and they're going to vote you out. I'm a telecommute employee. I bring a lot of revenue in this town, and I've considered leaving. I'm probably the, it's like sixth generation in this town, and we settled here. And there's not much keeping me here anymore. So There's a lot of opportunity outside of this county. I don't even work in the county, I work outside the state, but I bring a lot of revenue here. I represent a lot of generations, past generations. And I mean, I grew up in your neighborhood, went to school with your kids. I'm disappointed. I'm heartbroken that you guys are doing what you're doing. You need to stand up. Each one of you on the stage has the means to cover your own lawyer fees. That's without question. I mean, think about what the next generation's listening to throughout this process. We're all been listening. Not all of us have the courage or the opportunity to come speak in front of you. But go on social media if you don't have it. Pay attention. Mr. Murray, I'm speaking to you.
I'm ready.
I appreciate eye contact.
I am making notes as you speak. I do it all
So
day
is
long.
your clerk.
I take them personal, and I put them in.
So please listen and have some moral obligation to your role in this position. And consider the next generation of people that you're influencing. And consider the fact that we're not going to live here if this is the county that how it's being operated. Same for you, Mr. Stanley. Eye contact's important. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else who would care to speak? If not, this public presentation time is closed.
That escrow, the issuance cost for the transaction, we're at about 11.5% present value savings. So, you know, again, well above the industry expectation of 3 to 5. I'd like to just talk to you a minute off of page 13. And this is trying to get to an answer for you all about, well, what are our options, right? I mean, our options could be to move forward with this and, you know, as long as we hit our threshold at the end of October with our savings and our parameters, we lock in whatever savings we're able to get. But you have another option, which is to do nothing, right? You could say, let's wait and let's see if we can get a better opportunity in the future. So on page 13, under column B, that is...
Excuse me. He has a whole booklet. People need to go to work. Can you all do this after everything else?
We're in the middle of the presentation.
We're doing this so everybody will leave.
Exactly, that's the point. They're driving people
No
out.
outbursts, please.
Then do what's right. He's got 100 pages left to read on that. And if you understand it, you're doing better than I do.
And we don't even have the paper to look at.
I will tell you what I understand, putting the numbers together, it looks like we would save slightly better than 1 cent in taxes over the course of this.
But do it after
400,000 equates to little over 1 cent in taxes.
That's right, do it after the meeting and put it on the Warren County website.
Mr. Carl, we're almost finished.
Yes. So the opportunity on page 13 is shown under column B. That's the current market estimate. We've shown you what happens with the savings if rates move up or down by 10 basis points under column C and D. Column E is showing you if you were to wait until May of 2021, that is halfway between now and the call date. If rates stay exactly where they are, the savings would go up to about $8 million in total savings. But rates would only need to go up on line 4 by about 25 basis points to break even. In other words, if rates go up by more than that between now and 21, you would be better off moving forward with this refunding today. If they go down or don't go up by that amount, waiting may be a better opportunity. And then we've done the same thing for you out in 2021 and 2022, just trying to give you some perspective about how much rate movement you might be able to withstand if you choose to wait with this transaction and it's somewhere between 50 and 100 basis points. In other words, if rates move up by 0.5% or a full percent between now and 2022, you would have been better off moving forward with the transaction today. The last thing I want to share on this is page 14, and it simply shows you different levels of savings measured on a present value percentage basis. So column B is the current estimate. It's about 11.5% present value savings. Column C shows you what the savings would be at 3%. D is 5%, 7%, and 9%. So again, trying to show you some relative dollar savings if rates move up between now and the end of October. Line 4 is the amount of rate movement that would be required in order to land at those present value savings. So again, the resolutions for this are for the 11s and for the 12s. We've established the not to exceed parameters with the Virginia Resources Authority, the savings threshold of a minimum of 3%. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Jesse Bausch is here if you have questions on the resolutions.
Does anyone have any questions? Anyone?
Is this the first you've seen this report?
No.
No, you had time to look it over, review it.
Some of us have, I don't know if everyone.
No, my concern is, and you're getting ready to vote on it? And it's that big? And you're just seeing it?
We can bring this up at the end, but not
That's
now.
terrifying.
That's not, that's
Let's
like,
go do it.
how did you look at the budget for this year?
I think that you came before our board was it a couple of years ago, or was it last year regarding about the same issue?
Periodically with certain refundings that, you know, we want to make sure you all are aware of.
Right. I actually did have a question on that. It needs all the stakeholders to buy into this for this to happen, meaning the Rappahannock County Board of Supervisors.
No, that's the RSW jail, that's not this. This is county only, RSW jail is different.
Yeah, this is the Warren County. The school board will have to meet on this tomorrow evening, I believe, is it's scheduled. The next item on the agenda is a similar transaction for the RSW jail, of which Warren is a member, and they have an opportunity to refinance their 2012 bonds as well.
Okay. Any other discussion? Is there a motion?
Do you need this, do you need the approval today, or can it be here in the next meeting on the 15th? Because I think you said something.
15th of October?
Yeah.
That would work. VRA has requested approvals by mid-October, and I think October 15th will meet their requirements.
Because we did get the summary in our packets, we had a chance to go over that. To me, it looks like there's savings. And we also have some safeguards too, between now and the end of the month, if the rates spike or something like that too, so.
That's right.
I mean, I'd be prepared to approve the motion tonight or today. I'd also be okay if people want to wait till the 15th, since we do have that time.
May I ask a question? But you have the authority, if we approve this, if the rates go up or down, then you...
Yeah, the resolution would establish the minimum savings, and VRA, who would be actually issuing the debt, would...
We are protected.
Correct. They cannot move forward with the, including you.
No. Anyway, if we vote on it today, we're not going to lose the money.
Correct.
I just wanted that clarified.
Anyone else?
Mr. Green has a question.
I move.
Go ahead, Mr. Carter.
I move the Board of Supervisors approve the resolution drafted by Bond Counsel Daniel Siegel to refund the principal amount not to exceed $26.5 million of the 2011B, $34 million of the 2012A Virginia Resources Authority bonds. I move that the Board of Supervisors approve the amendment to the financing lease with the Virginia Resources Authority.
Second.
Any further discussion?
And so, just for clarification, that is, you're moving for approval of both of these written resolutions?
Yeah. You're going to approve this and have it looked at it? You may not lose money, but you might gain money.
Please, no outburst.
So if we postpone this to our October 15th meeting, that would not put us in jeopardy.
No, we have other folks that are looking at similar transactions that are going to meet a few days after that, and VRA has said they're fine with that. So yes, you can postpone it to the 15th if you like without jeopardizing the opportunity.
I'm moving postpone to October 15th meeting.
Thanks.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call.
This is on the,
This is on the 2011-2012 bond refunding.
To postpone it.
Postponing it
To the 15th.
to the 15th.
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Mr. Sayer?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman?
Aye.
Ms. Glavas?
Aye.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next is the refunding opportunity through the Virginia Resource Authority 2019 SAVE for bond refunds for the RSW Jail Authority. Mr. Hall?
Mr. Chairman, let me give a quick introduction. So in June 2012, the Arkansas Regional Jail Authority issued $45,240,000 Series 2012 A bonds to the Virginia Resource Authority. The bonds initially had interest rates ranging from 2 to 5%, were sold upon maturity of 11/1/2042 with call date of 11/1/22. The bonds are not eligible for tax-exempt advance refunding, but the advance refunding could be facilitated through a taxable issuance. The authority has an existing debt service fund requirement of $2,997,422 associated with 2012 A bonds. As a result of the reduced debt service payments, the existing debt service reserve fund requirement may be reduced. The 2012 A bonds were used to finance the construction of the RSW Regional Jail facility located in Warren County. Based on projections provided by VRA, Davenport has proposed the authority issue a regional jail facility revenue refunding bond to refund all or portion of 2012 A bonds to achieve debt service savings. Based on the current low interest rates, the authority could potentially save $4,826,790 or 9% of the principal portion of 2012 bonds through the 2019 CVRA bond sale. Warren County share will be approximately 50% of the total savings based on current inmate population. In your packet are attached resolutions drafted by Bond Counsel Dan Siegel, authorizing the authority to pursue the refunding transaction subject to a series of formal parameters, including a minimum savings threshold. The bond sale date is scheduled, like the other one, for October 30, 2019, and the closing date is scheduled for November 20, 2019. The RSW Regional Jail Authority Board of Directors met on September 26 and unanimously approved a resolution to refinance the 2012 A bonds at 9% net present value savings. With that, Mr. Cole, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, I think we can
Mr.
be
Chairman,
more brief on this.
please have respect for people who need to go to work
Since it's already
and
been
do this at the
postponed,
end
postpone
of the
this one as well.
session.
Will you please? I understand where you're coming from.
Then why don't you
This
do it?
gentleman's also traveled to come here.
But he's getting paid.
He's coming back October
He's
15th.
getting lunch and everything. We're not-
You've already extended the other one.
Do what's right for, do what's right for the people in this room.
All right, Mr. Cole, will you please accommodate?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will make a comment. We are looking at saving between the two items approximately 1.25 cents on taxes.
That's fine, but nobody in this room understands a word that he is saying.
Well, we don't have the paperwork.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I want to be clear what we're doing. Are we amending the agenda to move this item, to move item M to item L, or what are we doing?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we move item number M in place of L and move L back to M.
I'll second.
Okay, we're going to do, the motion is to move item M to item L, move item L to item N. We have a motion. Is there a second? He's just flip-flopping.
I gave a second.
Okay. Can we have a roll call, please? We're taking M and just taking, and putting it in front of L, taking L behind M.
On our agenda.
On our agenda.
Amending our agenda.
That's it.
Oh, yes, okay. Thank you.
That's where we're at. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Ms. Gladys?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman?
Aye.
Mr. Sayer?
Aye.
Mr. Fox?
Motion moves. Okay, so we are now going to M, hiring of legal counsel for Warren County Board of Supervisors, County Administrator, former County Attorney. Mr.
This is at the board's discretion whether or not to do this for board members. With respect to the county administrator and the former county attorney, there are contracts that provide for indemnity.
Let them see the count.
We have nothing.
We had none.
We have no background material. This was added. I think it's difficult to make some determination on this at this point. I understand the contractual obligation and also understand whether or not to provide legal representation for the board members. I know that Mrs. Gladys and myself, I did have somebody I thought lined up and arranged with potential conflict. In order to take action on Ms. Gladys and myself, we have to have somebody. So this would have to come back anyway for each of us, because I think the process is for each of the board members they have to be recused, and the rest of the board members vote for it. Because of that, I would suggest we postpone this to
Virginia statute, you get reimbursed if you're found not guilty.
to the December meeting. By that time, it should become clear how these charges are going, because I know several of the motions are going to be made to quash on the 28th of October. I believe Mr. Sayer's motion, I'm not sure if it's to quash or what, but I believe his date is set for November 19th. So I think by giving that time, we'll be able to see exactly how this is going to play out. And again, we've not really got anything as far as background material and all things. So this has been put together relatively quickly. Since all this stuff just kind of got on, I guess, last Tuesday and then Friday was the court. So that's my motion to postpone this to the December meeting.
Is there a motion?
I made
You made a motion. You made it. Ms. Mouse, can we have a roll call?
Wait a second. There's no call question. I'm paying for my own attorney. I'm gonna vote no on everybody else, and we should just go forward and have faith that this is gonna work out.
I'd like to call a point of order.
Mr. Fox? Mr. Sayer?
No.
Mr. Chairman?
No.
Ms. Glavis?
Aye.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
What happens in the meantime, between now and then? Can someone answer that question for me?
We can ask questions or bring up what you want at the general presentation comment period at the end of the meeting. We now move to the bond refunding opportunity for the Virginia Resource Authority for the RSW jail. Mr. Cole.
I would like to call a point of order in this meeting as to how Mr. Stanley can even keep his job, because it is a clear violation of moral turpitude in his contract.
In this meeting.
Point of order is not an outburst. Look at Robert's Rules of Order.
Like the prior discussion for the county, the RSW jail also issued debt in 2012.
Mr. Chairman,
I
object to this. This should be done after everybody has spoken. People need to go to work. People need to get home. People need to go to school to get their kids, and you're going to go through this?
This is a prime
It's
example. of what
appalling.
I've done.
This is an outburst. You can bring it up at the end, not break down, no outburst. Right now, there is a decorum that's supposed to be
Of
held in
course,
the
just like
meeting.
it was on the pay for your attorney.
Point of order, is Robert.
Yeah, the point of order is Robert Rule of Order. I didn't bring my book. but-
I don't understand why he's already motioned to extend the other one to October 15th. I do not understand why that cannot be. You have the material to review and you have 2 weeks to do that.
May I ask a question?
Yes, Mr. Porter.
I assume that the same timeline
Correct.
does. I know we've all had the summary and had a chance to see it. I know that there was, this was probably like the one in 2017, I guess, where you have to have all 3 members of the RSW.
Right, this is the RSW, so that it would only go forward if the RSW board takes action, which they did last week, and then the 3 member jurisdictions. So we've got the other Shenandoah and Rappahannock in the next few days, Thursday and the following Monday, if you all need time, that works too.
It's not really, I mean, it seems like there's something in one of the news accounts that some of the members of Shenandoah were looking at the possibility of maybe putting off the potential of more savings. I don't believe they made a determination at this point.
They have not, they've been briefed on it like this presentation, and they will consider potentially taking action Thursday after.
We have the summary background information in our packet.
Correct.
Which basically you went over for the previous bond issuance. And then there's additional background material that was provided as far as historical trends, things of that nature.
Correct.
So I would propose we postpone this and have you back on the 15th as well. I mean, if that's okay.
Fine.
I mean, it works. I mean, we're not doing any time limit. We have time.
We have time for the VRA program this go round to do that on the 15th.
So I make a motion to postpone the RSW bond refund to the October 15th meeting.
Does this have the same deadline of October 1st?
Yes. It would be part of the same VRA transaction. If we can have all members consider approval by mid-month, we should be fine. And, the current savings, just so you know, a little over 8.7 million, about $365,000 a year for the authority, and then that gets allocated amongst the members according to the head count of folks that are there from each of the jurisdictions.
Quick question. Yeah, do all 3 partners have to approve this?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I have.
And we would save about $8.7 million.
That's the current market estimate, 8.7 million over the remaining term of the debt, which goes to 2043.
And this is the one that we directed a couple of years.
We did get fairly far down the road with this one in 2017, yes, sir.
But we didn't do it.
We did not move
because Shenandoah, we didn't approve it.
We did not move forward, that's right.
Just one other real quick question. The savings that you're talking about, is that for all 3 localities or is it just the Warren County savings?
This on page 2 that you're seeing is in the aggregate, so roughly 50%, give or take, would be the Warren County share of that.
When was this bond? In 2043?
2043 is the final payoff, and if we did the refunding, it would also continue to be the final payoff.
All good question.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Ms. Levis?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Sayer?
Aye.
Mr. Fox?
Thank you.
We're moving to a 5-minute recess. We're back in session. We're back in session. We have 1 member of the board not back yet. We're back in session. Please, everyone, take your seat. I hope thank you, Mr. Sarah. I'm glad you came back. Okay, this time, we open our public hearing presentations. Public presentations. Ms. Mount says, anybody signed up?
Why, yes. Melanie Samuels.
Melanie Salins, 95 Burris Drive. Earlier I stood before you as a concerned citizen. Now I'm standing before you as the co-founder of Birth Local. I appeared before you many times in 2018, before the EDA corruption was publicly acknowledged by government. One topic I spoke about was the unusual business decision the EDA made to waive millions of dollars in bond fees for Valley Health, a business decision our community will be paying for the next 30 years. A decision you all voted in favor of, assumingly because you trusted Jennifer McDonald and the rest of the EDA, and trusted Sands Anderson attorney when he claimed this was a typical business practice. We all know now that this was in no way a typical business practice. In light of the criminal indictments last week, I wanted to point out that 3 of the EDA board members indicted were involved in the creation of the deal to waive the bond fees. All 3 of those EDA board members are also in some way affiliated with the hospital and Valley Health. One member also stood to benefit from the location change of the new hospital by way of his real estate investment located directly across the street. Furthermore, the deciding vote in town council was cast by yet another Valley Health employee who had in the past recused himself but decided that night not to do so. I am here to ask for your assistance in helping the community recover some of our losses. I would like for all of you to agree today to draft an official letter of request to Valley Health, asking them to voluntarily pay the bond fees as they should have. I will extend that same request to Town Council and to the current EDA board. The bond deal is tainted and could be viewed as a way our town will continue to be victimized for the next 30 years. The deal was created by people who had perceived conflicts of interest with an entity now alleged and criminally charged in an illegal activity. It gives the appearance that Valley Health is benefiting from ill-gotten gains. I can't imagine Valley Health would want to benefit from criminal activity in any way, shape, or form. I would certainly hope that Valley Health would want to leave their reputation untarnished and not have speculation that they benefited from those involved in alleged criminal activity. Their willingness to donate these bond fees would be an excellent gesture of goodwill towards our community and the difficult spot we find ourselves in. Thank you.
Paul Gabbard, 1221 Valley View Drive. With all the money that the taxpayers are giving to the EDA, is the county billing the EDA for the financial work that they're doing for the EDA? I think they should. We should not, the taxpayers shouldn't be paying for that. I would like to know if the county administrator, if I walk into the county building, if he could give me an up-to-date number of the county's financial status. I don't think he could. The BOS have not overseen the county administrator. The county administrator has had free rein for too many years. If anything, the county administrator has overseen the BOS. A forensic audit, so to speak, forensic audit, we've all heard that, should be done of the administrator's county credit card, just to see where all the money goes to that he spends. And that audit firm should be picked from a group of 4 citizens. And I think you all should take that very seriously, because you all know the type of man he is, which you let him do what he wants to do. The 2019-2020 budget, there's $1,819,820 that went to the economic development. If this is the EDA, why? Why to go to the EDA when all of this was known to be going on? Why did we, the taxpayers, give the EDA more money when it was already known that Jennifer McDonald was doing illegal business along with other people? During the presentation there, it said that there was no, on the budget, on the audit of the budget, no difficulties found in finances. My opinion is, why would there be? The county finances show what the county administrator wants them to show. One reason this is my opinion is you can never get any money figures that make any sense through the finance director. It seems all dollar figures need to go through the county administrator. I want to speak also about, there was a thing up there about unemployment on the audit. I agree that the county needs better jobs. But when you're talking about unemployment and we need jobs, go around the town and county and look at all of the help wanted signs that have been there for 6 months or more. They're never filled. Mr. Parsons of the EDA, I just have to say that because it floored me. And I believe it was Mr. Parsons. If it wasn't, I apologize, and I will do that in public. Made a comment of trying hard to get a loan for the afternoon so the work can start again, and to get the loan for before the winter weather gets here. Why worry about the winter weather? There's nothing but a dirt floor in this building. I think that's all I have to say.
John Edwin Hensley? Mr. Hensley?
I'll go with this, please.
Oh, actually, Robin Dennis is next.
Oh, no, I just signed in.
Robbie Olivas?
Sign-in sheet.
Robbie Olivas?
She just signed in too.
Okay, Karen Roberts?
I've already spoken.
Already spoke, okay. Christy Atwood?
Well. Okay. You were charged last week for misfeasance, nonfeasance of office, and now you're being negligent. Doug Stanley is your employee. Y'all are voted in, so there ain't a whole lot we can do with you guys, but you can fire him. He has violated the moral turpitude clause in his contract more than one time. Remember the email he sent to Jennifer, buying from another relative? The other email that he sent to her that was full of profanities? Y'all done nothing. What has he got on you guys that you cannot do anything to him? That you let him drive an expensive SUV all around town and pay $40 a time to get his car washed? Why don't he wash it at home or do it and spray it off himself? And the other thing is, I made lots of FOIA requests, and I know the county has tried to money me out of it. So $1,000 deposit, I made it. I finally got some information, but now Stanley's the CEO of the county. I didn't know we were in a corporation. If there's any CEO, it should be Dan Murray, and he could be the chief operating officer. We're not incorporated. And then just a post on Facebook how the reform committee from the EDA and the town council and the joint reform, it's canceled. The town's pulling out. They don't have anything to do with you. That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing for all of us. I told you back in 2017 when the issues of my house came up, y'all did nothing for me except stand there with these blank stares. Well, that made me mad. And I think y'all noticed that by now. But that made me really mad. And now the Afton, the developers, they don't have a contractor's license. Not one at all. Because I FOIA'd requested all the building permits. They don't have a contractor's license. So the EDA, IDA is getting it as owner. That is how they're doing it. So they're going to be the ones ultimately responsible if something is not done. Oh, and also in that packet of all of the building permits, there was one great big one that said solar power. Now, Doug Stanley says he does not know anything that does not go on in this county, so he's lying to you. That's another violation of his moral turpitude. Y'all need to get rid of him, put Bob Childers in his place, because as it stands, we can't come to any of you or Doug Stanley. We need somebody that's at least partially honest and untainted, that doesn't have any charges against them. Y'all got to do something. And the other thing I want to really question, because I've been through this too many times, is I've been before the local board of building and code appeals. Y'all hired Mr. Ham to represent them. and now he's representing the county. I've already went through conflict of interest one time. I don't want to do it again. Y'all have got to realize, and we need leaders up here, people that put their self or their service before their self and are not into this for personal gains. And y'all need to do something. You need to act, and the first thing you need to do is get rid of Doug Stanton.
Gary Kushner.
I'm Gary Kushner of 1106 Fetcher Road in Browntown. First, I'd like to mention that in the future, your agendas, having a 20-minute time frame for public presentations on agenda items is not adequate. The current agenda had the attorney matters coming later, and there's no way that a citizen can give you reasonable feedback and opinions in 2 minutes. So with that said, I believe the board should be operating with 2 overriding principles. The first being total transparency, and the second, that all decisions be made in the exclusive interest of the citizens. And with that said, it's my understanding that both the county administrator and the former county attorney were contract personnel, not typical county employees. That would be similar to hiring an outside auditor or management consulting services whose expenditures would be open to thorough public scrutiny. As such, I request on behalf of the county citizens that the employment contracts for the county administrator and the former county attorney be made public so everyone can be aware of the exact wording of the provisions. The details of their contracted service is not a personnel issue under privacy provisions, in my opinion. Surely, language in their contracts wasn't meant to indemnify them from consequences of possible criminal behavior. If there is wording that generally says that the county will provide legal services for actions taken on behalf of the county, I don't think this situation applies. While I'm not a lawyer, I believe such language was intended to address civil liability, not criminal. Certainly, they can't assert that they purposefully included such language to shield them from financial repercussions if they got caught conducting violations of law. The charges they face reflect an allegation of professional performance failure so gross that it warrants criminal prosecution. Unless legal counsel for the county now states that their contract language 100% with no doubt obligates the county to providing such a benefit, then it would not be in the interest of the citizens to agree to accept that financial liability. I believe that there is more than a reasonable argument to be made to not providing legal services to the county administrator and former county attorney. I would rather roll the dice with the courts in potential litigation over contract interpretation rather than roll over and just burden the citizens now with another significant expense. While I certainly subscribe to the concept of innocent until proven guilty, just the appearance of impropriety and mismanagement has brought significant negative consequences to our county's reputation. Providing a public-funded benefit to anyone who is even remotely accountable for this debacle would be totally unfair to our citizens. The public will almost certainly be shouldered with a financial loss for embezzlement and misdeeds to the tune of millions of dollars in the EDA matter. Funds that the public worked hard to earn. They've further been saddled with up to another $1 million for audit and investigative expenses that will surely go higher. To expect the public to now fund the benefit of to those parties that have potential culpability for possible criminal behavior is a bridge too far. It would bring the saying insult to injury to new heights. Should it ultimately be concluded that benefit language does exist for legal services for defense against criminal charges, then we should vow to never agree to such a contract provision in the future. To guarantee that lesson, it should be enacted in a county statute. Mr. Chairman, I think that the issue on the matter has already been decided, but I'll just mention that when Mr. Whitten was before the board at his last meeting, you made it a point to comment on how you were not just appreciative of his professional contributions he made during his tenure, but his personal friendship with you. As such, I believe that any future issues involving Mr. Whitten that you should consider recusing yourself to avoid any appearances of conflict of interest. As for approving the funding for legal counsel for members of the Board of Supervisors, I believe it should come down to actual language that exists in the state and federal statutes or bonding provisions. And typically bonding would protect the citizens from lawsuits and not responsible for possible criminal behavior. So unless legal counsel for the county now is of the opinion that the citizens are 100% obligated to provide legal counsel for board members, it would not be in the interest of the citizens to do so. Again, the roll the dice position in a litigated contract interpretation would be preferable to simply rolling over and agreeing to pay legal expenses. If it is learned that the public is legally liable to provide you this benefit, then action should be taken at the appropriate level to change those laws. Maybe a fair compromise in this situation is to pass a resolution that the county will provide a percentage of reimbursement for any board member ultimately cleared of the allegations. As I said before, when you sought the public office, you took the oath to fairly execute the duties of the office. And now you've brought yourself under question. And as a matter of personal integrity, as some of you have already mentioned, that that's something you need to take care of on your own. And you alone have put yourself in this position of scrutiny, and the state audit committee is never going to go away. So with that, I'll conclude remarks and hope we're looking at better days. Thank you.
James Harper?
My name is James Harper, and my address is 3658 Rockland Road. Mr. Chairman, Supervisors, on August 6, 2019, Mr. Chairman, I gave you a list of questions, and as you promised me on 2 different occasions, if I asked you a question, you'd get me answers. Apparently, you gave those questions to the county administrator to answer. Mr. Stanley responded, and I'd like to know if you ever looked at his response.
Yes, I did.
Mr. Stanley either didn't answer them or wrote answers to make himself feel better. Last week I got busy and typed up responses to Mr. Stanley's letter and answers. And this morning I read my responses and realized that I was wasting my time and effort. Mr. Murray, you and other board members have quit and are just going through the motions until after the election. Tax hike Tom Sayer is the only board member paying attention, and that's because he's running for election. Mr. Sayer, maybe the county should have an election every month so that you and other supervisors will focus on the county business and do a better job. I started to feel sorry for Mr. Stanley as he's over his head in his current position. He doesn't answer my questions as written. He makes up his own questions and answers. Mr. Stanley could easily have asked for a copy or listened to the Royal Examiner podcast for my questions. I do take exception to a couple things Mr. Stanley said in this letter. He uses the phrase, as you say, on the cost of the roof project at Ressie Jeffries. And in your letter to me on August 18th, you state that the project cost $5 million. And do you really believe that the contractor actually did the work at night for the same price a day job would cost? As you say is your phrase, not mine. Mr. Stanley, your letters to me on May 21st, June 18th, August 6th, and 15th are full of distortions. I never said you blocked natural gas from coming to Front Royal. I said it would be nice to bring natural gas into Front Royal. Mr. Stanley, you said that a consultant picked out the site and you had no input for the regional jail because other sites did not have water, sewer, good access, three-phase power, and so forth. The county has many B sites that have those utilities. This is one of the reasons I know you're not qualified to lead the county. You've helped your friends, FODs, friends of Doug's, enrich themselves at taxpayer expense. Mr. Stanley, I asked if you knew anything about a sign taken from my yard on May 21st, 2019 between the hours of 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. You indicated that you were not aware of who removed the sign. On the 21st of May was my first time at the board meeting, and you saw me at 6 p.m., and when I got home, the sign was gone. Coincidence? I think not. But maybe I don't believe you. In your letter, you also bring your 11-year-old son into a conversation. After hearing comments your wife made at her school about my sign, I did consider taking it down, as I don't want to hurt any child. After much consideration, I left it up because I think your performance has hurt more children and adults in this county, and in my opinion, you need to find a new career. You should be ashamed for even mentioning your son in a county business letter. I can only imagine how it must have felt to go home and tell your children that their dad had to go to jail. There have been repercussions for my sign, as my dogs are not allowed on the Shenandoah Valley Golf Course anymore. Your friends don't like my sign, as they will not allow me to exercise my dogs early in the morning. Mr. Runyon said that both your children work at the club. I understand his position as the owner of Shenandoah Golf Club. That is his right. My right is to never attend any function there again and hope that others will boycott his club. I'm a little surprised he employs an 11-year-old son, and more surprised that you let an 11-year-old have a job, but maybe employment laws have changed and the state of Virginia Department of Labor can look into the hiring practice. Mr. Stanley, you seem to think being charged with a misdemeanor is funny as you were leaving the jail. How dare you suggest that the county should pay for your legal fees? Shame on you. Mr. Stanley, my offer still stands. If you answer questions correctly in the state of Virginia police polygraph, I will make a $1,000 donation for each correct answer to a local charity. Let's put to rest all the social media speculation about your work performance. Ms. Mounts, when I send in a FOIA request, I expect to be answered correctly. I spoke to Dan Whitten about not getting correct information, and it happened again. You might report to Mr. Stanley, but you work for every taxpayer in the county. After the election, I will ask the new board to have you reassigned to a new position. Mr. Sayer, I had to laugh when I heard you cried in court and again at the Republican meeting this week. Hopefully my comments don't bring more tears to your eyes, but in case, I brought some tissues for you, just in case.
Mr. Harper, if I can bring up an item, not trying to cut you off, but county policy and procedure 4.4 states no personal attacks during the meeting. I've allowed that to go beyond what I would consider the norm, but right now we're in the personal attacks on people.
Oh, who are you talking about?
Mr. Sayer, Mr. Stanley, you've been attacking.
Mr. Stanley brought his 11-year-old son into a business letter on county stationery. I didn't bring it up. But if he brings it up in something, I think I have a right to respond.
But not attacking. Like you
I'm not attacking. I'm just going over facts.
I'm bringing up a point of order.
I'm just bringing up facts. Let's review the last couple weeks. You're suing a former county employee because your feelings were hurt, and you have been charged with a couple misdemeanors. You almost got voted out of the Republican Party. You don't get along with your former law office colleagues, and you couldn't make it as an attorney or even get court-appointed cases. Last time you ran for office, I want to congratulate you on winning. You had several four-letter words for me because I did not support you. And now you have a job as human resources that your wife got you. Sad. But I have something else for you, a bar of soap to wash your mouth out.
I think this is now going beyond what's acceptable. If you could wrap it up and please stop, I'd appreciate it.
Mr. Sayer, last month I asked you to withdraw your litigation against Ms. McDonald. In 2010, you were sued for what seems to me as the same thing you hid behind the town council, and you got off on a technicality. I speculate that Ms. McDonald is probably using taxpayer money to pay for her legal representation. And now that you got a judgment, will you give the money you receive back to the county?
I don't know.
That's really true.
This is a hard ride. I have no idea if I received one penny of that judgment.
But if you do get a penny, will you give it back to the county?
I'll have to wait and see. I have no idea about it. I doubt she's not just gonna write a check, okay?
We all know that. She's using county money.
I mean,
It's still my opinion that the EDA should shut down for 2 years. They say they're solvent, but have millions of outstanding loans, and this does not include what Ms. McDonald has supposedly taken, and no credit and debit sheets that can show the public. All this under the Board of Supervisors and Mr. Stanley's watch. The citizens of Warren County deserve to see an up-to-date accounting. I'd also like to see each EDA board member pledge that they will not enrich themselves as some past board members have done. For all the millions the EDA has spent, what do they have to show for it? I hear noise from the EDA, but no action on how to attract new commercial development. I'm also tired of the EDA having too many closed-door meetings. The public needs to know how bad they've screwed us. The crooked run development should be for commercial development, not residential. And one last thing before I go. Mr. Carter, do you live in Front Royal in Warren County?
Yes, sir.
You reside every night in Warren County?
Yes, sir.
Good, just wanted to check. Thank you very much.
Ms. Mills?
There's no one else signed up.
Anyone else care to speak at this time? Anyone? Please.
Sorry, I didn't sign up.
It's okay.
Fritz Schwartz, I think I'm at the same address I was before.
No, if you would just give it.
Blue Mountain Road. Just a couple comments and then a couple questions. Is that I have a book that I've always kept throughout my life of famous quotes that I've heard. Is that I've got quotes from Marion Barry, I've got quotes from even Hollis Clark, where he said after the EDA thing started that the citizens need nothing to worry about, it's all under control. I also got the quote that says, well, Jennifer won the $2 million on the slots. That was a good one. So tonight, or today, I think it's still night, when you said all the panhandlers are coming to Warren County, if you take a look at what we've gone through the last couple of months and what we went through today, I think that there's a reason why they're coming to Warren County. If we take a look at the, I must admit, is that the bond issue right over my head. That doesn't take much, but I gotta admit. If I read the budget thing, it shows to me that there's a excess of money. We're not broke. And I can't understand why we do the tax increases if we still have that kind of money laying around. And I got a question for the auditor. Is this the same audit firm that audited the EDA before? Is that same guys? Okay, never mind. And final, two more comments, is that if you take a look at the Warren organization chart, Warren County organization chart, the very top, it says the citizens. The citizens. Then it goes to Board of Supervisors. I think somewhere along the line we're losing that. But I also remember that on that flag right there, the Virginia flag, their motto is Sic Semper Tyrannis.
thus be deterrents. And that's what I think is going to happen. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else to care, please?
Me?
Yes.
Was it me or him?
No. Okay, you're here now, and Mr. Barnes.
Paul Gavin, 1221 Valley View Drive. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one thing about the lawsuit, or about the attorneys being paid for. I don't see how Mr. Whitten can have an attorney paid for by the county when he resigned before he was indicted. So I think that is something to consider.
Next.
Jim Bond, 289 Harmony Orchard Road. I just want to go on the record on something that was characterized as an outburst earlier. If you folks publish that audit, 2018 audit, saying that there are no material weaknesses in internal controls, that is it's totally laughable, number one, and number two, if you publish it, it's an outright blatant lie. I don't see how you could ever possibly say that, or allow your auditor to. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who care to speak? Anyone else who care to speak at this time?
Yep.
Please.
I'm Elizabeth Dunn from 1205 High Top, and I know that I do live in the United States of America, and I know that you're innocent until proven guilty, and I do know that we, the people, need to make sure that no board member can hold a seat for 20 years. It should only be 8, and that's it. Instead of playing the hip hop of who's going to be chairman every year and switches back and forth so everybody gets their turn to be chairman and stuff. And basically the way we need to do that is to get a hold of the representatives of Virginia and get them to change the laws, the rules, that nobody can hold a seat for more than 8 years, no matter what. And nobody can be appointed to a position for 20. That's just absolutely ridiculous. And we the people need to educate ourselves about Robert's Rules of Order. Because when we use Robert's Rules of Order in situations like these, the board can't shut us down. We have the right because we are the people, right? We're the ones that voted you all in, right? We're the ones that trust in you and everything. So it really is up to we the people to get off of our tushes and do something about it instead of just talk. Talk is cheap, baby. Talk is very cheap. It's action. Getting up, doing things, and I am very grateful that there are more people coming, because I remember in the day when Shenandoah Farms people would come down here, they'd be just as many officers. The back doors would be open here, the whole room would be filled, standing room only, and there was a lot of things that happened, and people were arrested and stuff because of their behavior coming before the board to tell you how upset we are. Well, if we just educate ourselves a little bit of Robert's Rules of Order, the board cannot shut us down. Thank you.
Please.
Robert Hubman, 1481 Hazard Mill Road. Just some things I've seen that I appreciate you guys still holding the fort down until we're out of the dark times. But I think the people, what we really need to go forward is excusing any major decisions until after the elections are held, and maybe just keep it to day-to-day operations, and maybe I don't know if you can push back a few board meetings until after November, and just I'm trying to spitball for your guys' sake because you're definitely in a hot seat right at the moment, and I think we need unity. And to do so, I think, there's some key points I pointed out before. If, you might have to look at personnel changes just until after these indictments come out until due process. But other than that, that's short and sweet to it. Let's just try to, move forward and not make no decisions that we're going to have to fix come January 1. But other than that, appreciate it. We do have great state delegates out here like Michael Weber that are really dealing with supporting anybody, especially myself, so I'm excusing. We got help at the state level and federal level that I went out and reached for. So for the people, I feel like there is going to be a good change coming, and hopefully you guys will voice your opinion November 4th or 5th, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that cares to speak?
Amber Morris, 3574 Houseville Road. I want to commend you all for showing up today because I know most of you probably want to hide in shame, rightfully so. You've all been indicted on misfeasance and nonfeasance, and you've all heard us plead and cry and ask to please resign. I'm asking that all of you resign. The only way to begin restoring as a community and begin the healing process is to start with new leadership and people that we can trust and hold accountable. And the fact that none of you do take accountability, even though Mr. Egger stood before you guys for years, multiple years, and on video explained all of it to you guys, all of the lack of oversight, you chose to ignore that. So I'm just going to, I know it's going to fall on deaf ears, but plead once more to resign and let our community heal. This is not who we are.
Please.
Steve Color, 1605 Rocky Hollow Road. Everybody's voiced their opinion, but Warren County has come to a low today with Emily being attacked. Emily is nothing but plight to everybody. She's not been charged with anything, and to get up here and attack Emily is right down disgraceful. I know she's got to be overwhelmed with all the requests. The county employees, they don't make that great of money. And get up here and attack that young lady, I'm sorry. I disagree with it. It's disgraceful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak at this time? Anyone else care to speak? If not, adjourn.